In the heart of the nation where laughter's the key, Natch has the podcast, join the revelry, taking the Mickey with positive spin. Country folks unite, let the Nat Chat begin. Nat Chat where the laughter's free, spinning tales about politics with positivity.
Okay, with slightly longer than that, 3 days to go until actual polling day. My friend and colleague, Dr. Anne Webster, member for Mallee. How are you?
Just fab. And yourself?
I am grand, just grand.
Lovely.
Now, we had the good Senator Bridget McKenzie in town. She's just literally flown in, flown out to make a wonderful announcement. Amongst the other couple, we'll start with today's announcement, but then I want to talk about the Monash announcement.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, Bridget was here to make an announcement that is very exciting for Mildura and region, but also for the trucking industry, for the freight companies across Australia, where we are funding $5 million for a feasibility study so that we can do a bypass around Mildura. It's been long discussed. Very little money, relatively speaking, put towards it. This is the first step, and the fact that it's $5 million goes to show the kind of in-depth study that needs to be done. This isn't about doing a few focus groups, but it is on the back of significant work locally. You and I, of course, put together a petition, and we had 1,000 signatures to that, which was great. But we also had stakeholder meetings. I invited trucking companies and the council and various other stakeholders to talk about what was needed. We also talked to those who are really concerned about rail. And, of course, it is that whole freight movement and how it intersects, if you like, with Mildura.
Yeah.
And, so there's been a lot of talk about the Monash Bridge. There have been discussions about freight and intermodals. There have been discussions about, where a bypass should be from the Sturt to the Sturt, effectively New South Wales to South Australia. And I'm very excited that this is a strategic investment. Should the Littleproud Dutton, Littleproud, sorry,
I prefer it the other way, to be fair.
Should we win government, then we will be moving through with this, getting a procurement for the consultation that needs to take place.
Yeah. Now, one of the questions that came up during the press conference was, where did the figure come from? And immediately my thought was, well, this is a big, we're talking about one, maybe two bridges. This is from the ground up, which could take a matter of years. And then when you put all those hours together, plus travel, plus time, plus all the technical expertise, $5 million could actually be quite cheap if we can do it for that.
Yeah. Well, that's right. I mean, if you want a legitimate, large-scale consulting firm to do this kind of work, they're the kind of dollars that are required. And Bridget, makes the comment as Shadow Infrastructure Minister in this instance, but obviously previously Infrastructure Minister. This is the kind of investment that needs to be made, or you don't have a legitimate plan. And we want a strategy, as I said in the press conference, we want a strategy that is a 50-year plan, a 100-year plan. We don't want a Band-Aid to this solution, because we see what's happened with Benetook. It's just not the solution.
Correct. And my other thought was, then we don't want bureaucrats doing it. We want someone that actually knows what they're doing. And Bridget, in her role now as Shadow, but also in the Minister for Infrastructure, Roads and Infrastructure, she's done these things all around the country.
Right.
She knows what it takes. And if we don't do it right the first time, and you and I often discuss that things like this cannot be solutions for the next election cycle. They need to be long-term for the greater good of the region.
Absolutely. And Mildura, let's face it, is the centre of the universe.
It is,
We
obviously.
all know that. And so all roads lead to Mildura, whether it's Sydney or Brisbane to Adelaide, even Melbourne. There is a lot of freight on our roads, and the roads, thank you Labor, are in appalling state. So we need serious investment, which is, there are other announcements that we've made in this last couple of weeks, like the Regional Australia Future Fund, which is $20 billion that every year into perpetuity, which every year will have $1 billion just for the regions, for roads, infrastructure, childcare, healthcare, all those things that Labor absolutely ignore. It's almost like Mallee doesn't exist.
Yeah, and that regional future fund, I was actually having the conversation with, no joke, 24 hours before about, all of the how do we fix it? And I said, you need a future fund like Denmark has, like Norway has, like Finland. They have money in the bank too, and they have roads like runways.
Yeah.
Funny that.
Yeah.
But like you said, when we talk about our transport, because of the amount of freight coming out of this region with the food that we produce, we need a very strategic transport strategy, which must include rail, and it did. But unfortunately, when you have a change of government, like Peter Crisp got the $440 million for the Murray Basin Rail project. But then when you have a change of government, they go, oh, no, we're throwing that out. Well, that's just going to cost the taxpayer more money, as we have seen, and it's led to nowhere near the rail freight infrastructure that we actually need for it to be efficient.
Well, in my first term, 2019 to 2022, I did get $200 million, which the state theoretically was supposed to match, for the Murray Basin Rail project. And we know how poorly that was operationalised by the Victorian government, to their shame, which has left many communities, including Mildura, really at a bit of a stand in terms of freight. Roads have become really the way that people get product to port. And I've just come up from Maryborough this morning, leaving at 6 a.m, and I can tell you that the trucks have just, no offence to the truckies, it's not their fault.
No, we love them.
We love them, but the roads are a disgrace.
Yeah,
and it goes back to the lack of maintenance by the Victorian Labor government.
Absolutely, and the lack of investment. When you take away the roads funding, and it's been cut year on year on year.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, because of the lack of rail investment for freight and for passenger rail, of course, but the trucks are only getting bigger. Lamatinas are... They are running a fleet of B quads. It might be the same axle weight, but they are big, big trucks.
Very big trucks, and don't we know it when we're trying to pass them?
Yeah, don't we though? That's another thing that another policy issue that you and I will talk about later, and speed limits overtaking trucks on national highways. But anyway, let's talk about Monash and the announcement you made, because this is actually life-changing for everyone that lives in this region in all three states.
Look, as the Shadow Assistant Minister for Regional Health, I ran summits and engaged with stakeholders from across the nation, brought them here to Mildura, and worked with Nick Coatsworth as well to come up with what are the barriers to dealing with the workforce issues, because health workforce actually stymies all kinds of growth. You might have a fantastic hospital like down in Maryborough right now. They've got a fantastic hospital, no doctors apparently. Oh. So the locals tell me.
Interesting.
Funny about that. So what was very clear was that when we train doctors in the regions who are regional kids and regional constituents, then they are the ones who tend to stay in the regions. It is known 75% of those who train in the regions remain. That is critical. Mildura has a significant shortage of doctors. Robinvale has a shortage. Oyen has a shortage. Everywhere across Mallee there is a significant shortage. I've been working with Monash University and Latrobe University for years now to come up with the solution for us locally. So the Nationals years ago did the Murray-Darling Basin the Murray-Darling Medical School, so many Murray-Darlings and Murray Basins, Murray-Darling Medical School, which was this concept of training people locally. Now, there are other sites in New South Wales where that is happening, but Mallee has none. And so Swan Hill has like the tail end, thanks to a New South Wales university. But locally, Monash were prepared to pick this up with some support. So I went into bat for that funding, $8.7 million, which will be for infrastructure, for accommodation, and the next fight will be for the Commonwealth-supported places, which, of course, are competitive, understandably. But if we've got the infrastructure, that is, 90% there. So I've been working with Fiona Wright and Shane Bullock at Monash for years, and Latrobe, of course, have been a big part of that discussion as well.
Yeah.
So it's critical. I mean, both of these announcements, the bypass feasibility study, $5 million, 8.7 for the local training of doctors, and then the $12 million the runway upgrade. They're some money. They're not billions of dollars, but there's significant investment in Mildura, which will produce strategic change. And that's what we're interested in. And I know you and I, as we've discussed, it's not about the Band-Aids. I don't want lollies. Please don't come here and give me lollies for my electorate. I actually want strategic change that will invest in our region because we deserve it.
Yeah, that's right.
And we need it.
Yeah, and it's for the long-term future rather than the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
That $12 million for the airport, and this is a pipe dream of mine for air freight, whether or not that's feasible, probably not right now because you'd need to backload. We don't import that much. We don't need to because this is the centre of the universe and we are self-sustainable, obviously. But if we have that $12 million investment for the runway upgrade at the airport, we'll be able to at least run daily 737s, right?
Yep. A320s, I believe.
A320s too?
I believe that's correct.
Wow.
Somebody's going to ring me and say it's not correct and I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway.
You're not an aviator though, are you?
Yeah, I am not an aviator. Let's make that clear. The jets that we need, which mean reduced prices.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah. So Virgin could charge a standard fee, which I believe they should all charge, fill their planes and be able to operate successfully. Bonza, sad story, didn't charge enough, but their business, this is why business plans and feasibility studies, etc., are so important.
Correct.
But Mildura should have flights. In my view, Mildura should have flights to Brisbane, should have flights to Sydney, Melbourne, which we do, Adelaide. Minimally.
Yes.
Minimally. So I think it's an important investment because the runway upgrade means that those heavier, larger planes can land. Whether it's going to lead to freight in the long term, I believe we need an extension of the runway, which has issues around the land that the airport owns. But, we'll see what happens in the future.
Their master plan is very well done, though. I got to have a look at that late last year, I think. It's lofty plans, but it looks good. We are so spoilt with that airport here. We really are, aren't we?
Well, it's the busiest regional airport in Victoria.
Yeah. And a legacy of World War II, I believe, because of the 2OTU.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I think it does raise questions. There's only limited dollars. I know Labor don't think this because they think they can have debt till, your eyes bleed. But the fact is that to be responsible managers of the nation's money and the state's money, you need to spend it where there is actually going to be benefit. So that whole cost-benefit analysis sounds cute, but it's actually real.
Yeah.
And whether we pour money into a passenger train, which I note some are still talking about at a state level, which is your bag, fortunately not mine, but that cost-benefit analysis matters.
Yes.
In terms of where the money goes. Do we continue investing in the airport and have cheaper flights in the long term, or do we put it into rail? I don't know.
Well, the whole
Passenger rail.
the passenger rail discussion is ongoing. Matthew Guy, who he will never say that he is a train nerd, but he is, has said to me that it is possible, but not at the moment with the difference between standard gauge, broad gauge, because essentially the plan was never completed, despite how many people might say that it was. It wasn't. And it might take you 13 hours as it is to go. No one wants that. Although some people like the Vinelander, you can't, and that's fine. That's fine. Some people don't like to fly. I get that. But Matthew has promised to come and have an actual discussion.
Good.
And see whether it is worth, before next year's state election, see whether the appetite for community is there to lobby for that cost-benefit analysis, which, again, costs money.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And if you don't plan it, well, my husband has a very cool saying, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And it's very true. When you're talking about taxpayer dollars, let's always remember it's taxpayer dollars. It doesn't belong to the government. It comes out of our back pockets, and which is a whole nother subject about the government handing it back to you when they've just flogged it out of your back pocket. So.
Yeah, the whole power. Are you talking about the power saving
rebates,
bonus and what was
every one of them.
the $400 school saving, whatever that was. So I'm like, to me, it's buying votes, but people fall for these things. Now, coming into the last few moments of this election campaign, your election campaign personally in the electorate of Mallee seems to have gone very well. I mean, Labor in an electorate of 80,000 square kilometres couldn't find someone within the electorate to stand against you.
Well, there are several people who are standing who don't live in Mallee, just saying.
That's bizarre to me.
Yeah. So I've done candidate forums the last couple of nights, one in Horsham and then one in Loddon in Inglewood. And interestingly, if you go to the Loddon Herald Facebook page, you can stream the candidate forum from last night. Very interesting, where the Labor candidate, Greg Olson, was pushed to say whether he agreed with and supported VNI West and all the renewables that are crowding out farming in Mallee. And eventually he had to say yes. And then
that he supports VNI West?
He supports VNI West and all the renewables. And then effectively called us all Luddites.
I'm sorry?
We weren't getting with the program for the future.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was a wow moment.
So I've been having the conversation mostly online with the group of mums, farm mums that have put together Farms for Food. They've done it so well, and I say this often. They asked the question when they were having the discussion about Professor Mountain's Plan B, and that's what we've been saying at state level. There is a Plan B. It is right here. It's a third of the cost, and it doesn't rip up any more farmland because it uses, existing easements and upgrades the poles and mines that are there. They've said, what would the inclination be to just spend more money? And I had to say, I don't know. It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. And the other thing that I spoke about it on the forum last night is that we need to understand that where the sink line underground occurs or is taken up by the government, it still has to come out and go on to 500 kilovolt towers regardless. And you've got to see these transmission lines as arteries out of which cowboy renewable companies will attach,
of course,
their renewable projects. Now, that is part of the problem in my view. So you don't put the money into the artery. There's no reason for all of those huge industrial renewable projects to go ahead. There are other answers. There are other ways to power our nation, as we know. And as we've just seen in Spain, maybe it's not a good idea to have all renewable.
I'm glad you've brought this up. Let's chat about nuclear, because I make no secret of the fact that I'm a huge fan of having the conversation about nuclear. And I read a lot. I have spoken to lots of people that are in the know about nuclear. Dr. Gail Isles, who is a physicist, has worked at Lucas Heights, understands it intimately. And there was, I don't know who it was, but there was someone on Tom Elliott this morning discussing nuclear that had signed the letter that is in today's paper. And one of the things that we hear a lot of rhetoric around, and I think it is people that have just caught the Simpsons syndrome and think we're going to end up with three-eyed fish and two-headed kids, which is not the case. But he was talking about the waste, and this is something that we hear often from those that are misinformed, ill-informed or just uninformed, that the waste pellet, and this is not small cell nuclear because I thought that was the answer and I'm now second-guessing that. But again, this is what comes out of having intelligent conversations, because I always say, and you can pass this one on to your husband, here's another saying, you always learn more from people you disagree with.
Absolutely
right?
true.
So the waste is about the size of your fist that would power a family home for your lifetime and your kids' lifetime.
Yeah, that's right. So at Lucas Heights, where I've been twice now and talked with pregnant physicists.
Stop it.
Who,
working in a nuclear reactor?
yes,
Stop.
How shocking.
Wow.
And they even have a childcare centre
Stop
there.
it. Do
No,
they?
They do.
Oh, goodness.
I've leant over the reactor. It is extraordinary. I have stood next to the cylinders that contain the waste. 2 cylinders that are difficult to describe in terms of size, but I think if you went like 3 metres wide, maybe 4, but I think that's too wide, 3 metres, and maybe 5 metres high. There are 2 of them. That's all the waste, like forever from Lucas Heights.
Forever. Yeah, for the 80-year life span of it.
That's my understanding. And there is so much, as you say, ill information that is running around the traps. It's not surprising. I did have an older gentleman come up to me on the polling booth a couple of days ago and give me a major serve about nuclear and how dangerous it was and how filthy it was.
Filthy?
Filthy.
Sorry?
No, filthy.
Oh.
That was the word.
Oh, no.
And I went, okay. Well, I just don't think you're going to be very interested in what I have to say, so we'll just pass on. Please go vote for whomever you choose.
Yes. And that's often, if people are steadfast and cannot be or don't want to engage in a two-way conversation, fine. Carry on with life. But nuclear is, we need to at least have an adult conversations on both sides of government, because we need a base load of power, as we've seen recently in Spain and Portugal.
Yeah.
Because if you rely on renewables only, and France are getting out of all their wind turbines, they're getting rid of them. And here's the thing.
Where?
Well, they've got them in the north.
No. Where are they going to put the turbines?
Well, exactly. No, they're taking them out and then putting them into, I don't know, is there a recycling plant for those things somewhere?
Think so.
No, what do you do with them? You can't just take them down to the tip, can you?
Yeah, no, landfill.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I know, it's insane, but the energy that they produce does not offset the carbon footprint they make to create and run it for their 20-year lifespan. That's what's bizarre to me.
I know.
And that's not girl math. That's not even Jade math.
No.
That's fact.
No. So the Commonwealth Energy Regulator, Climate Energy Regulator, I spoke to in my office in Parliament last year, and I asked him the question about Scope 3 emissions. That's what it's called. When you ship coal from here to China, they burn it, they make the products. We put the products called wind turbines and solar panels onto a ship it back on their diesel boats, put it onto diesel trucks and bring it to wherever it's going to go. Use 800 tonne of concrete per turbine in the ground and leave it
800 tonne, is that what the footing is?
Yeah.
Oh, my
800
goodness.
tonne, and it stays there. They don't take it out. So what do you call all of that? And do you count that? When you're saying emissions-free renewable energy, do you count all of that manufacturing and delivery, et cetera?
Well, they can't. If they're saying that they cannot.
He says no, we don't.
No.
Well, how honest is that?
Well, it's not. But people believe it, unfortunately, which is there's just no common sense in that. And 800, I know how carbon heavy in terms of emissions concrete is to produce An 800 tonne per turbine is insane. Before I let you go, and I'll head down to the 8th Street or the 10th Street or somewhere else this afternoon, how are you feeling? Because you have not sat still for months now.
I know, it's a worry because I think your body actually gets used to just chug. So Sunday's going to be interesting. Well, I've been out and about and across the electorate. I think the mood on the ground is pretty positive, I've got to say, in Mallee, but there is serious and understandable concern about another 3 years of Albanese.
Yeah.
I feel that concern myself in a very deep way. So I'm just, crossing fingers, toes, praying that the people of Australia make the right choice. They think about the last 3 years and they consider, are they better off today?
Yeah, the thing that I'm taking solace in at the moment is that Bill Shorten lost the unlosable election. And he lost that election. And the other thing is, and all of my little cliches, that oppositions don't win elections, governments lose them. However, particularly for the last week, there's been lots of talk around how Peter Dutton's campaign in particular has been, on a national scale, poor. Can you make a comment about that? Or...
It's really, look, we have a coalition headquarters. They make a lot of decisions based on a whole bunch of data that I don't see. So, I could give my knee-jerk reaction. I don't think that's very helpful. I think in the aftermath of the election, there will be, depending how we go, depending on the results, significant soul searching or review in a positive sense, a review of how things were played. I am, hoping for that miracle, really.
The other thing that I point out to people is that when they say you haven't been talking about nuclear, you haven't been doing this, you haven't been doing that, the fact of the matter is, we have, and when I say we, I mean the entire coalition nationally. But if the media don't pick it up or won't report on it, and we often see that locally here as well.
Yes, we do.
Which is why I do this podcast, and this is a time-consuming exercise, but people won't read about news that you or I are putting out in the local paper because they just don't report it. They don't print it. I haven't had a column all year. When was the last time you had a column in the paper?
Can't tell you.
Yeah. And it used to be weekly. Yeah. And that to me is a disservice to the community. You and I, yes, okay, we're both nationals. We are elected representatives, elected by the people. They
Can we
deserve.
Just say that one more time? Yeah. We were elected.
Elected democratically by the people. And democratically by the party to be the candidate first, might I add. It's a disservice to the community, in my mind, not to hear from us in the local paper.
Completely.
So nationally, if the national media or the state media is not going to pick up on things that Peter Dutton is doing, how do we combat that? How do we combat that on every level? Is it doing intimate things like this to put out for free to the greater universe and hoping that someone picks it up and shares it on socials?
Yeah. I think we do have to visit where and how we get our messaging out. It was interesting doing the Loddon Herald Candidate Forum last night. Chris Earle was, asking each candidate, would we support local papers by government advertising? And I listened to all of the other candidates and their responses, and then I said, I think it is a little simplistic to think that government should constantly subsidise, and that goes across the board. Things need to be either they sink or swim.
Yeah.
There should be a reasonable balance of, the decisions that people make to run a paper, to do whatever they want to do by their own means. I also think that the world is changing rapidly and the means of communicating have become highly digitised, as I'm looking at your fabulous equipment here, and it is highly technical. Now, do local papers need to find other ways to communicate local news so that we don't just end up with the Age or Sydney Morning Herald or the Australian or the Herald Sun giving, or the ABC.
Which all have their own agendas.
Oh, absolutely. Or, is there a way that we need to have local news communicated so that we don't lose that local element, but that it's not just seen as somebody else needs to prop me up? I don't know what the answer is, but I made that comment last night because I think that local papers are really important for local stories. And
well, they're the last media that we have left locally in a lot of cases, certainly here.
Yeah, well, other than
and
radio,
the radio, yeah.
Personally, I think radio gives us a fairer shot. But, yeah, I agree with you. I think as elected representatives, we need a platform where we can communicate. And, not everybody loves Facebook nor goes on Facebook. And if they do, they probably don't ever get off it because they scroll all day.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just think, we've just got to rethink the whole thing.
Yeah, which is why I figure that if we put out as much as we possibly can, then surely we'll hit some more ears and eyes and hopefully get the common sense message through that this stuff, when you break it down fundamentally, it's actually not that hard if you approach it from a common sense long-term point of view. And by that I mean long-term for the future of our region.
Yeah.
Well,
we've got to pull it together. The priorities of some who run media here, I don't think are the priorities of the community. And, while people might rail that the Nats have held this seat in this instance at a federal level for 70 years, Nats understand regional people.
Correct.
And we're not fighting for Kooyong. We're fighting for our region. And we make it, those of us who work hard hopefully do get re-elected. And it's because we fight. It's not because the Nationals have a hold in some magical way over the seat of Mallee.
No, and it's not like you or I are complacent and think that these are safe seats. I mean, I consider it's a 0% margin. There's no such thing as a safe seat anymore.
No, there isn't.
Not in this day and age with social media, with podcasts, with blogs, with newspapers, and newspapers everywhere having political agendas or not.
Yes.
There's no such thing as a safe seat. And no one can say that because the Nats have held the federal seat of Mallee for 70 years that we've got nothing.
No.
Can they?
No. Well, I mean, and that has been a bit of a topic which I've gleefully spoken about at the last couple of candidate forums because when people make that statement that, we're just forgotten and we get nothing from both major parties, I say, well, actually, that's not true. From 2019 to 2022, the coalition invested $2 billion into Mallee. $2 billion. That's rail, that's roads, that's infrastructure, that's whatever services that are provided. I have the numbers. In the years from 22 to now, we have received $100 million. So you're talking a 95% reduction in investment under Labor. It is not because the Nats hold the seat, it's who forms government.
Yes, and it's also, and I had this discussion with our Mayor and Council CEO today, talking about the funding programs under a Labor government from the state. A lot of those programs, because there's no cash left in Victoria, let's be honest, and what is there is being funneled to a dirty big hole under the city. But those programs don't exist. The regional infrastructure, country roads and bridges, the roads maintenance program's been defunded to within an inch of its life, as has the CFA, all of those things. The money's been taken out of the regions as a whole, and that's not because of that they're held by the Nationals. That's because the government in power is Labor and they just don't care.
No, they don't.
Having said that, we have managed to get about $20 million in the last 6 months for various state things. So we're getting a little bit, which is great, including the 16th and Deakin traffic lights.
Yes.
which is fabulous.
It is a very good story.
A couple of quick fire questions so people can get to know you. Zoe Support, you still involved with Zoe Support?
No, I'm not. I do have my husband's still on the board, and one of my daughters is on the board, which is fabulous.
Yep.
She's a lawyer, he's a doctor. That adds, it's a skills-based board, so that's very important. And it's doing really well, struggling as our charities are because of the lack of funding. But I'm not actually involved. I wanted to be able to fight for them and for smaller charities to be able to get the funding that they deserve. The opportunity has, while I present grant rounds to every organisation across Mallee, they're in that list. I'd like to see them do a lot better. They're doing amazing work.
They do amazing work, so well done. Do you have any phobias?
Phobias?
Or fears?
Do I have phobias? They tend to have fallen away. I used to be really afraid of big dogs.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I was, absolutely. I'm not so much, probably because I've had 2 Great Danes.
I was going to say, you have yeah. How is Philip's dog going at the moment?
Little Chester, he's doing quite well. He loves his daddy.
Oh, no doubt. How is semi-retirement going for the good doctor?
Well, he's back at work.
I was going to say he's working full-time again, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He's working aged care. No, it's not by choice per se. He was absolutely, keen to pull back and just do aged care, but the doctor shortage in his clinic meant that he has, out of his good heart, gone back to provide the services because, as you know, they're really short on.
Yeah. Dr. Webster, we will let you go because you have an election to win. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Have a sleep in on Sunday, for goodness sake.
I probably won't.
You should. You no doubt need it at this point. I think you deserve it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jade.
In the heart of the nation where laughter's the key, Natch has the podcast, join the revelry. Taking the Mickey with positive spin. Country folks unite, let the Nat Chat begin. Nat Chat where the laughter's free. Spinning tales about politics with positivity.